Hello, leader. Welcome back to the Fierce Factor podcast. It's Kaylee. We're tuning into episode 233. And I am so pumped for this honest conversation that I get to have with my dear colleague, friend, client, and top Leadership Academy member, Anna Trevathan. Anna is a going on 3-year client of ours who came to us with her head buried, truly just building her business with what we like to lovingly refer to as accidental growth. Somebody who just had her head down, really trying to do her best to build her business, and then found herself in a place of overwhelm. And Anna, in this episode, she came to us in our academy. We did a little bit of an interview inside of our group session where I had the chance to ask her some questions about her experience of growth, some of the really practical tools that have helped her get out of overwhelm, and where she is now in her business and how she handles setbacks and adversity. She talks a lot in our interview about accountabilities, about expectations with employees. She shares her experience of going from a place of wanting to hide in her treatment room so she wasn't bombarded by her team with questions asked, to the point of really feeling really empowered to communicate with them in a way that showed them clear direction around what tasks and activities they should be doing every single day to lead them to success and results in the company. So I'm just really excited to share with you this incredible conversation with a dear client who really has learned how to let go of control and perfectionism in her business, step into a CEO mindset, and allow her team to grow and thrive so that they can continue to build and scale the company for her with her at the helm. So excited to share this conversation with you. Without further ado, please enjoy. Hi there. Welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Anna, welcome to this honest conversation. Really excited to share your story and just you with our academy and obviously the world. So why don't we start by telling the listeners a bit about your background and what inspired you to start your practice?
Okay, so my background is in surgery. I worked in surgery for about 17, 18 years total. And I worked as a circulating nurse, as a travel nurse for about 8 years, and then as a first assist. And as I was going to nurse practitioner school for job security as a first assist, I found myself one day reading about injectables and Botox. And I thought, oh, this would be fun to do on top of working and going to school. So I talked to my supervising physician, and I was certified, and I started doing Botox on the side out of his office, just out of one room in his office. And I did that for about 10, 11 months. And there was accidental explosive growth. So I found myself having to move across the street into another building. And then it just grew from there.
Just accidental success. We don't know what happened.
Yeah, it just happened. So
too good for your own knowing. So incredible. So let's sort of starting there, and then what happened between the accidental growth of where all of a sudden now I'm an aesthetic provider to the point of you calling KLC and saying, I need your help. So what happened? Like, fill the gaps in for me.
So I was juggling working in this when surgery, and I was learning about aesthetics because there's a lot to learn. So I was learning all the things and doing the trainings and dealing with everything that comes with owning a business that I never intended to own. And I met Dr. Sarah Trammell at a conference, and we had kept in touch over, the year or two. And as my overwhelm was building and things were getting out of control, I was watching her on social media, and I was watching her posts became more unique and more creative. And she was nervous. Like when I talked to her, she was kind of in the position I was in. There's a lot of overwhelm and uncertainty, but she became more confident just in the short few months. And I thought, wow. So I messaged her and I'm like, hey, you're doing so great. Like you're really growing and so proud of you. It's fun to watch you grow. Like, what changed? Like, what are you doing? And so she told me about KLC and about the Confidence to Scale course. And I thought, wow, if I need to try that, I need that in my life. So that's when I reached out and I just joined the course. Didn't even think about it because I listened to some of your podcasts and they were so impactful and your voice was so engaging and motivating. I just wanted to be part of that group. So that's when I joined Confidence to Scale.
Oh, well, we're so glad you're here. So let's talk about that. So you were experiencing a lot of overwhelm. What were some of the things specifically that had you in that state of overwhelm?
I was having to do all the things, and I was having to learn all the things there is to learn about aesthetics, learn how to be a leader. I'd never been a leader. I was a clinical background, and learn all about the business. And I got to work and I found myself not enjoying it anymore because of the overwhelm of feeling buried in life. I was a mom. I had to do all the things at home and at work, and everyone looks to you for the answers and they expect you to have them. And they look at you and they think, oh, you're successful and you're busy, but that doesn't mean that you're okay. Like you're feeling all the things. And there was a point that I hid in my room. I didn't want to come out of my treatment room because everyone would come at me with a question or a need, or I had to be pulled somewhere. So I would just stay in my treatment room. And that was my solution. I would just hide out. And that's when I brought that to you and you had the idea of doing a question clipboard. So unless somebody was bleeding to death or dying, I was not to get interrupted. Just because I was in my room without a client, that doesn't mean, oh, Anna's not an appointment, I'm going to go talk to her. No, that's my time to get my things done. And I think that was a pivotal moment in my transition because I was able to protect my time. And I learned that it was okay to set boundaries. I could still care about the team and care about my clients, but I was able to set boundaries and not feel guilty because I would still get to their questions and there wasn't anything that needed to be answered right away. And just learning how to protect my time, that was a huge part of it.
Well, I remember conversations with you where you were working till like midnight or something like that at home. And you would take home these treatment plans and not spend time in your clinic building the treatment plans. You would like save that for yourself for later. And so you never really had a delineation between like work time and home time. It just all was bleeding together. And I think for some reason, there was some story you were telling yourself about that you weren't giving as much as you could to the business by doing that like administrative task during business time. Right. So when you think back to that now, like what's your perspective of that, like that, Anna?
So I think I was so focused on I had to do everything perfect. I had to make sure that my hands were on everything, that I had such tight control over everything that I didn't allow my team to be creative and to take on the task that I thought that only I could do because it was all in my head. I didn't have time to put a process in place. And I heard from everyone, don't start a business without your processes. And I heard from you guys, you have to have your processes in place. I thought, I don't have time to get processes in place. I just got to keep going. But you can't not have the time. The choice to not take action is a choice that has consequences. And it took me about 6 weeks to block the time off. But once I did, then I was able to gain traction, get my life back, feel like I can breathe again, and I like myself again. I had literally gotten to a place that I didn't like who I was. I just was always overwhelmed and irritated and annoyed and running behind and doing 500 things at one time that I wasn't able to focus and give anything my true attention. So in letting go, I saw that my team was capable. I just didn't give them the space or the roadmap on what success looked like.
What's that like interesting conundrum that you're in, where you intellectually know that, we're calling them processes, but even if you did have the process, did you really invest in the time to manage the process and to hold people accountable to that process, right? So I think there's one thing of having like, okay, we put the system in place, but where I see so many women fail is then it just is that system actually even happening in the business? I don't know, because I'm too busy doing what I'm doing. And so it's almost like, what's the point of having them? And so we hear this all of the time. I don't have the time to create the time, to make the time. There isn't time to have time. And it's funny that we say this to ourselves, because then once you just do it and you realize like, I needed the time. But what's interesting about that is that piece of control you were talking about like feeling like I needed everything to be perfect. So it's this expectation of ourselves and this high level of professionalism and perfectionism, which, I don't love that word, but so whatever. We like things to be excellent. Let's just put it like that. And what's happening is that you believe that you're the only one who can achieve that level of excellence at everything, or you don't take the time to help somebody go through that process of learning and growing up into that. And so you end up having a team of people who need you for a million things because these approvals can't get done, or the next step, right? You're suddenly becoming like the cog in the wheel. And now you're hiding out in your treatment room because the minute you open that door, it's going to be a tsunami of questions for you, because you have not actually empowered them with their own ability to answer those questions, right?
Exactly. And I would get frustrated thinking, why isn't this getting done? And I would go out there and the look on their face was like, well, you won't let us, you won't, they said, you won't let us do that. You won't tell us how to do it. Like you've told us to leave your schedule alone. You won't allow it. So it really takes honest self-reflection to be honest with yourself and say, I am part of the problem. And what can I do to fix it? And that's where you like come to mind, because you get when I come up with a challenge or an obstacle arises, I see your face and that look, that grin. I'm thinking, okay, what would Kaylee tell me to do right now? A funny story. I used to be scared of, I think I told you, I don't know if I told you, but I was scared of you for a while. I was intimidated by you. When I was going to have to talk to you, I'd sweat and my heart would race, because I knew that you were going to ask me hard questions that were going to make me have to self-reflect. And I hadn't done that. And when I first started Premier, I didn't really have a vision or a mission, or you kept talking about mission, vision, values. I thought, I don't know. I'm just doing it. But I have since developed my passion and my mission and my vision. And now I have a pulse for the business, and I have more passion for it that I didn't have before. Before I just thought, oh, it'd be fun to do. It's fun, but it's hard. Mm-hmm. But now you've allowed me the space to have fun again and to watch my business grow, that before I wasn't capable of doing that because I didn't allow the time for that. So you were impactful in that, because now I stop and think, okay, what would Kaylee tell me to do? Because she would look at me and she would just be straight with me and ask me the hard questions that I know the answer to, but I don't want to face it. So I think it's funny that I was scared a little bit of you, but once I met you, I'm like, oh, she's not so scared. She's just like me. We're all human, and we're all scared, but you just have to work through the fear.
My husband's scared of me too. I get it. No, but listen, I thank you. And, listen to what you're saying is that you faced those difficult questions that made you evaluate a habit that you had developed that was truly, it's more than a habit. It's the DNA of who you are. And you were somebody who achieved this accidental success when you just decided to pop up and start doing Botox. And all of a sudden you're running this company because of the gift of who you are, because of your commitment and passion and the way that you care for people and the way that you are willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done and do it the right way. And those are gifts. Those are absolute gifts. The thing that's scary and challenging about that is that it's an entirely different approach to the way that we build and scale business, that it requires new skills that you haven't developed. And we all, as successful, high growth, high achieving women, we're not used to being bad at things. Let's be honest. You guys have heard me tell the story about switching up my golf swing after 10 years of golfing. And a little kid, 7-year-old I was teaching I coached in soccer, came up next to me on the mat, and I was whiffing balls. We're talking about a girl who used to win longest drive competitions, and I couldn't even make contact with the ball. And he was like, "Oh, hi, Coach Kaylee," and shooting balls off. And I literally left and went to my car and cried. I mean, how dumb is that? But that's how insecure, that's how terrible it feels to be bad at things, right? And now, not only are you putting yourself in a position to have to learn a skill you really don't know a ton about and you haven't practiced, but now you've got this responsibility to uphold in the meantime. Mm-hmm. You've got a business, you've got team, you've got, employees that you have to be responsible for their livelihood. There isn't, you and I talked earlier about the opportunities when you first start out, and there's just so much potential, but then all of a sudden you start to develop this level of success, and now it becomes a responsibility for you, And so I think that's why I don't think you thought it was scary. I think what that meant for you, right, was that you were embracing and facing a woman who was going to have to step into the absolute unknown and could potentially fall off into the deep end. She didn't succeed.
Exactly. Yes, right? Exactly. And I felt when I came to the group, it's hard to say, like you said, it's hard to not be an expert when we're used to being experts. And I felt like I had, which is odd, but I felt like I had to be somewhat of an expert, and I didn't feel comfortable asking the questions I needed to ask. But we're all in the same boat. What I love that there's so much, everyone's willing to share. And here, everyone has the same struggles. And it took me a few months to realize, okay, I don't have to, I'm here because I'm not perfect. I'm here because I need help. I'm here for the guidance. And if I'm not honest with myself, I can't get the guidance that I need. And it's okay to not be okay, but we want to shift out of that. And the only way to get help is to be honest with you and ourselves as to what we need in that.
Yeah.
And what that looks like.
Which shows so much strength, because I know I'm looking at the comments in the chat here of women who are you would, if you walked by them on the street and you saw how much success they have achieved, you would never know that anybody would feel like that, right? The same for you. This might be a tough question to answer, but if you could even, come up with one or two, I'm curious what have been the biggest mindset shifts you've made over the past 2 years as a business owner?
So there's so many of them. One, like we talked about, was letting go of control. One big one that I couldn't see myself doing for a long time was transitioning to the CEO mindset rather than the provider mindset. you would tell me, you have to step back so you can work on the business. And I was thinking, I can't because I'm bringing in the revenue. And if I step back, the revenue's not going to come in. And one thing that I kept hearing, that I kept playing over in my head that you said to me was, Anna, you know how to make the money. You can make the money, but you're not going to get out of this. You can't work your way out of overwhelm. So that's what gave me the courage and the strength to step out, step back, put my CEO hat on and figure out, okay, what am I going to do? What do I want the big vision to be? And to look at the business from a bigger lens rather than a narrow lens. And that's when I was able to really pivot and grow even more. And just allowing for imperfections. Like, it's not going to be perfect, and just get out there and try and learn together and allow the team to bring ideas to me rather than me having to delegate everything, giving them the space to say, hey, like, let me know what you think. What are your thoughts? What's working? What's not working? And the constant, consistent communication helps a lot too. It's life-saving.
So the first mindset shift you talked about was when I just want to spend a minute there, because I think I have yet to meet a female entrepreneur who struggles with this, and that's letting go of control. So talk about that process for you. And maybe you could share, because you actually shared a really great example with me on the last time we talked about delegating even job, maybe even writing KRAs or job description. Like, talk to me about how do you let go of control? Like let's just go there.
So when I first had to let go of control, I was terrified. So I have one son. He was a senior last year in high school. And 2 years ago, he wanted to he's like, hey, Mama, can we go to Greece and Italy? I'm like, no, Zach, we can't go to Greece or Italy. And then I thought, why can't we? He's about to only have one. And okay, I'm gonna make it happen. But that was going to mean me being gone for 3 or 4 weeks. And I thought, how am I going to leave the country, be in a different time zone, and everything's still going to run? And Justin told me, she's like, Anna, tell your team you're excited to see what they do when you get back. I was like, oh, can I say that? Can I do that? And you just have to set the expectations. And this is what I did. I wrote down what was expected and the steps how to get there, make an SOP, which everyone hates doing SOPs. I didn't want to do my SOPs. But once you get them down and the team knows what to do, how to do it, by who and by when, it's seamless. Like, people were just running like clockwork. The whole team was amazing, and they did phenomenal when I was gone. So it's a matter of stopping to say, is this really that important? Like, do I have to have control of this? And focusing my time on the 80-20, the 20% of the things that are really going to matter. And it sounds simple to say, but you just have to let go and trust and have faith. You have the right team, and you just have to let go. And there's going to be mistakes that happen, and you just fix them along the way. That's a learning experience that makes you and the team stronger. So that was what really helped us. And then the team is proud. They're proud, and they say, you know what, I did that. I contributed to that. Then they want to do more. So it changes the whole culture in the office.
I love that. I'm flashing back to just the pictures and videos you sent from your trip to Greece. And then now I'm choking up because, gosh, I have one in high school, and time goes by. Ah. And I think sometimes we need somebody to remind us what's important, because we get going in life. And you've been so great, just watching how you've managed the last 2 years and completely refocused personally And then with that, the side effect of that being that you've left a team you've empowered them because you've given them that space and the freedom to like grow and fail and learn. And you've become the mentor to them. And I just want to thank you for being that role model. It's been incredible to watch you. And I think it's like, just to hear from someone that there's safety in not being in control at the time. Cause I think that's the scariest thing is that like, if I let go, things will fall apart. And yet control's just in our mind anyway. It's just not even a real thing. It's just something we tell ourselves. And it's showing up for me in my life and everything in my life, not just in business. So that's something that I personally have worked really hard, especially this year. That's been like my biggest thing I've been working on is like the letting go of control. And I remember, I think it was Simon Sinek was talking to someone and he said, taking a trip and going on vacation and telling your team, I'm out, you guys handle it, is a gift to your team because they know that you are a perfectionist and that the fact that you trust them means a lot to them and they're going to step up, So it's like you've done it and now you have the success story to share because of it.
And I have to add that I'm going to get emotional, but I did have a lot of mom guilt because I wasn't there. I was always, the first 3 years were a struggle. And I talked to Zach about that whenever, the summer before he left. And I said, I'm sorry that I was gone so much. And I kind of feel bad that I work so much, but I'm going to do everything I can this summer. Like, you're my priority. Whatever you want to do, we're going to do whatever you want to do. And there was one day about 2 years ago that I came home. It was like, I came home early for some reason. I don't know why, but I was home when he got home from school. And I realized how much happens between 3:00 when they get home till 8:00 when I was getting home. And I thought, I'm missing all of this. And he's an only child, so he doesn't have siblings to come home and share things with. So I was intentional about, I'm leaving here at 3:30 or 4, at least 2 or 3 days a week. I don't care what's happening. I'm leaving. I'm going to be there for him. But he was so sweet. He's like, Mama, every time I looked up and I needed you, you were there for me. And he said, we took all these trips. We made all these great memories. He said, I'm so proud of you and everything that you've accomplished. He's like, look where you started, Mama, look. And look where you're at now. And so he's my biggest supporter. But not only that, I was able to show him it's okay to get help where you need help, get coaching. Everyone needs coaching. People used to think getting a tutor was bad, but now it's a good thing. Like, getting coaching is good to help prepare you for that. The only regret I have is I wish I didn't know about the resources. Had I done that 2 years ago, I would have had 2 years of my life back that I could have spent with him, because I'm never getting that time back. But all I can do is move forward. And he has learned a lot from it. He's grateful and appreciative. And a lot of kids wouldn't have been. They would have been resentful. But he just was grateful for the time that I did have with him and all the memories that we made, because I was intentional. And one day he asked me, Mama, when are you gonna be home? I said, I'll be home in 30 minutes, Zach. He said, okay, so that means 3 hours. And my heart just sank. I felt awful. I'm like, no, I will be there in 30 minutes. And I left everything and I came home, because you're not getting that time back. And for those of you that do have kids, and everyone told me the time goes by so fast, and it does. And once they leave, nobody prepares you for that. It's a grieving process, because that chapter is closed. Then there's a new chapter that opens, and it's amazing. But there's a good month of a grieving process. But if you can be intentional with your time now, then it'll just be a better transition, and you can enjoy more of your time with them.
Well, those boys know how to pull on the heartstrings, man.
Yeah, they do.
I think I left early from one game and now Luke's like, oh, I can't believe you're still here at the end of my game. I've been to like 500 games, Luke, and I've been here at the end of all of them. But on it, truly, like, also, you've been an example of what it takes to go out and achieve the unachievable and to build something from nothing and to achieve your dreams. And I just made a post, I think, today about that. Like, I think that there's not a better gift we can give our children than to be an example for them of what's possible and show them that they can go and achieve anything in the world. And you've done that. You just told me that now he said he's all into personal development and wanting to follow in your footsteps, you know?
He is. And he's just he loved watching the business grow, and he would come and help sometimes, like in the summer. And he loved talking to the reps, and he's gone with me to business conferences. So he was exposed to all that, and that kind of ignited some interest in him as well, and passion. So it is good watching him flourish and grow and thrive now that he's out on his own. As much as it hurts, it's good that he did have all that exposure. And he would he'd be in the car sometimes when I'd be on my coaching calls when we would be talking, and he recognizes your voice now. Oh, is that Kaylee? If I'm watching Instagram or what, yeah, that's Kaylee.
So let's talk about, because this is something that I think's been so cool about having had the experience to work over the course of years with you, right? Because we can learn something and we have a new tool and, we go and we like set out on this path and things are going good. And then reality sets in, or we find ourselves like we hit a roadblock, or we all of a sudden get to a place where we're back in that place again, right? And you and I have even had conversations where you're like, I almost lost it and I'm back in this place of overwhelm again. And which this is what happens. There's cycles. And that's why coaching is so powerful, because you learn you recognize I've been here and I've gotten out of here and I've learned these tools. So what can you share about the strategies that you use to anchor yourself back to that bigger why, and how you get out of that place of feeling stuck or overwhelmed when you go back there, when you feel yourself back there again?
So what I've learned to do is I will just do a brain dump. When I get to a point that I'm paralyzed with fear or overwhelm, I'll stop and just do a brain dump of everything that's in my head. And then I will go through and think, okay, what matters the most? What's going to matter today, tomorrow, this week? All the rest gets put on pause. And then I think, what would my future confident self do? What actions would she take? And then that's how I do that. And I figure out my goal. And then I reverse engineer, okay, how am I going to get to that goal? And now at first I had to think it through, but now it's became second nature, and I just do it without really having to think about what I'm doing. But that works so well. Like, I love that.
Well, I love because you're so playful with me and all these tricks I try with you. And one conversation we had, which was like, your alter ego. You have been somebody who's really embraced the idea that we have identity shifts as leaders in our business. And so a lot of times we'll have conversations like, okay, we're on a 2.0, version 2.0 now. And you're which one am I speaking to? Right. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm not her anymore. And one thing that's coming to mind as an example is like, there was conversations early on about how your team perceived you and that you were kind of a pushover, and it was hard to hold them accountable because you kind of let things be loosey-goosey a little bit. And I think this happens when we build a business with our friends, essentially, or like, we grow up with people and like, we didn't need all that structure and things like that. And so now you've put all these systems and structure into the business, and then you've had to learn how to embody that leader who then holds people accountable, right? And that requires a different version of Anna. And so I think like when you're talking about how all these great tools, but also what is the future Anna, you really do a great job of putting yourself into this future, which is your current identity. And then when you slip back, you remember, oh yeah, this is who I am now. So let's talk about that piece of it a little bit. How has implementing systems and structure impacted your practice now and the relationship with your employees?
So that has allowed me to take control of the challenges that I want to take on rather than the challenges taking over me and taking over my day. And it's made such a difference in the office because before I would try to please everyone. If I had any resistance, I would second guess myself and think, oh, maybe that's not a good idea. Okay. But now I think, no, that is a good idea. I came up with it and I thought it through and I want to do it. And this is why. And rather than getting all the, no, we can't do that because of this. No, we can't do that. No, yeah, we can. How about find ways to say yes rather than find reasons why to say no. And so, we don't take no for an answer. We find a yes. And it's just made such a big shift for the whole. It's a positive vibe in the office and more of an excited vibe. And it's also instilled creativity in the whole team. They're like, oh, okay, now we don't have to do things this way just because we said it. And you said something the other day that we had a policy in place and that was a policy. And you're like, well, you just made that policy up, right? Like, yeah, we made the policy. So we have to stick to the policy because we made the policy. So you can just change the policy. I was like, oh, I guess we could just change the policy. Let's just change the policy. But we get it in our heads. That's how we have to do it. But then why? Like what we've started doing at the office is things in aesthetics change so quickly. Like it changes 100 times faster than any other industry. So now we've started reassessing weekly what's working, what's not working, what do we need to change. Just because it worked last month, it doesn't mean it's going to work today. So we're changing a lot of things up regularly. And now people are used to that. I think whenever I used to roll out a new process, I rolled it out, hey, this is how we're going to do it. So in their minds are thinking, this is how we're going to do it. But now I say, hey, this is what we're going to try. We'll try this for a week or two. I want your feedback. And then we're going to constantly change it and improve it as we need to, as the culture changes or as the needs change, or when we find a gap in the process. And that has worked well with the team being not getting frustrated because I'm not saying this is how we're going to do it. I'm setting the expectation. It's going to change and they're okay with that.
Well, also what's coming to mind is the pressure and the constraint on a human trying to be perfect, like we just talked about. Mm-hmm. And look at what that did for us. And what we're essentially doing is we're saying, here's the goal. Here's the action plan on how we're going to get there. And we're going to fail along the way. Like the expectation isn't for you to hit that right away. It's for us to start working toward figuring out what those roadblocks are, or the barriers are going to be that will be preventing us to get there. So like, it's almost like there's an expectation that you're going to fail a little, or you're going to discover a loophole or an opportunity or another way of getting there. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. And I could see how certainly that would inspire somebody to think a little more creatively than feeling like they have to be perfect and follow the plan exactly as it is, one foot in front of the other every day.
Yes, and allowing them that creativity to know. I found that one of my team members would think she was so focused on, I have to do this how Anna said I should do it, that she couldn't really think and respond appropriately because she wanted to do it perfect. And so when she learned, okay, this is our goal. We want to make our clients feel valued. That's it. Use these tools, but you say it however you want to say it. And now, she's thriving because she's not focused on, oh, I have to say it this way, how they told me to say it. So no, just forget about that. This is what we want. This is our goal. And she's doing great, phenomenal job. So I think that helps the team when you take the pressure off of them and to let them know, hey, it's okay. I know you're going to mess up and that's okay. We'll work through it together and we'll figure out how to do better next time. And then they appreciate that, I think.
Absolutely. So I think your story is so special. And interestingly enough, it's not that unique for somebody in our industry to find themselves sort of stumbling into aesthetics, right? It's like just a very cool place to be now. So I'm curious, like, as there are so many providers that are opening aesthetic practices or starting their own businesses, now that you have the perspective that you have, years under your belt and having evolved into who you are, what would you say are some of the common misconceptions about starting and growing a thriving business in the medical aesthetic space?
I think a lot of people think that it's easy to do. You see these weekend courses being advertised and they think, oh, I can take a weekend course and I'll be an expert because the courses are titled, become an expert in 2 days. That's just not possible. So I think people don't realize the work that it's going to take. You have to learn the anatomy. You have to learn how to prevent complications and how to deal with them when they happen. It's not if, it's when they're going to happen. And people think you're going to make a lot of money right off the bat. You're not. It's expensive to get into, and it takes tens of thousands of dollars for proper training and thousands of hours to get trained up. And I think that's a common misconception is there's not a respect for the industry from some people. And in Texas, it can be delegated to anybody. Like a physician can delegate to an esthetician. Not that an esthetician's not qualified, right, but how do you know if they are, if they're not? And so I think that is, people think it's just going to be easy to do and it's going to be less hours and you're going to have a better schedule.
And make money and be famous on Instagram and all the things.
And it's just going to be fun all the time. And it's not like, this is the hardest thing, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life, but it's also the most rewarding. If you put the time into it, it can be the most rewarding. But that's what I think is the common misconception.
So what kind of advice would you give to someone who's 5 to 7 years behind you?
I would say it's our responsibility as a leader to get the guidance that we need. Start, from the beginning and take the time, get your processes in place, get your SOPs in place. Nobody wants to hear that. And don't be so hard on yourself. Take action in fear and be okay with it not being perfect. And have fun. Have fun in the process. And I've learned that from you guys. Have fun while you're doing it. Have fun when you mess up. Well, not mess up bad, but just the little mess ups. And know that it's okay. Just fix it and move on.
Okay. Piggyback to that question. Someone wrote in the chat that they're hiding out in their treatment room right now. So what would your advice be to them?
Question clipboard. So I don't know if
describe that.
So when we started by just putting a clipboard outside the door and they wrote on a piece of paper, they wrote their question. But we've been utilizing a task management system called Todoist. There's different ones, but we use Todoist. So we made a column that says question clipboard. And I made the commitment that by the end of the day, I will read all the questions and reply to them. So unless it's an emergency, nobody comes to me in the middle of the day. And then that's an agreement that we made. And it may be 8:00 at night or 6:00 at night now that I'm better, but I will get back to them that day. So that's life-changing. So I would recommend utilizing the question clipboard with the expectation of, unless it's an emergency, don't come in my room and ask me. Or even if you're not in an appointment, that's your time that you're protecting and you're working on things. So.
Right. Just because I'm here doesn't mean I'm available.
Yes, exactly. Like I'm invisible today.
Yeah. Well, we want to have like this open door policy, but then also I've had to do the same even in a virtual company where like, my brain cannot distract there. Like I can't do that. And during this time, we just don't function like that. But it's funny how resourceful people become when they have to go seek the answers by themselves on their own, right? When they're used to coming to you for them. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what do you think we should do? I don't know. I'm just asking you. Okay, well, go tell me what you think we should do. Now, when I have time, I'll tell them, tell me what you think we should do and bring it back to me.
Yeah.
And I'll get a look like, aren't you supposed to just fix it for me? Nope.
Well, I think there's something about writing on a clipboard where like I have to think to myself, like I'm putting pen to paper to say, is this actually a question I want on this clipboard? I think there's just some accountability to that. So I love that. That's great advice. So, okay, Anna, well, it's been such a pleasure hearing your story. Thank you for the vulnerability and honesty and authenticity, and had me in tears. But I think sometimes we need to check ourselves. One, what are our priorities? Two, am I holding on? Can I let go of something that what would really happen if I let go of that? And maybe even just allowing ourselves to move through that. You talked about just moving through it, move in action, even in fear, and allowing yourself to have that emotion, but still continuing to move forward. Is there any other thoughts or comments that you would leave for anyone here in our academy or listeners of the podcast that you feel like would be just valuable for them to know, or maybe that just words of wisdom from somebody who's been there?
Just know that you're not alone. We all feel this way, no matter how they look on social media. Everyone feels scared. And prioritize time for yourself, for creative thinking, for self-care without feeling guilty, because that's where you're going to be able to replenish, and then you're going to be able to give back more. But I just love the community here because we can be honest with ourselves. There's not a sense of competition, and nobody's pretending to be something they're not. And I just love that. I don't ever want to think of life without this community here of all these high achieving women. I mean, it's just been phenomenal that I never would have gotten to know a lot of these people. I didn't know they were out there. And I just love the sense of community. So find a group, start with confidence and scale. That will be life changing. Like, take action, make the choice to better yourself and better your life. Because if we're going to go into aesthetics, that's draining in itself. So might as well do it and preserve your time and mental energy so you can have fun with it.
Love that. It's true. Set yourself up to build a business you love and that you never really want to retire from, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Very good. All right, Anna. Well, we're so grateful for you, and I appreciate you. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank y'all. I love being here.
Listen, leader, if you're vibing with me here, hang tight, because I have a brand new resource for you. You are a successful, confident, powerful woman who just isn't into being average. No, you have a calling, and part of that calling is requiring you to level up. And I know that if you're working to cross the next $1 million milestone in your business, you need to be in the right circles. And perhaps that's why you found us. I'd love to invite you to join The Blueprint, a weekly resource for inspired, provocative thinkers who are taking this conversation to the next level. Get access to free business tools, podcast supplements, guideposts, and direct communication with me and my expert team. And of course, a masterfully curated circle of women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to klcconsultants.com/blueprint. It's time to elevate. See you there, goddess.